Is the other rabbi coming? It is 7:30. Rabbi Spike. We sing Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Sing with us, it's fun.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Bye bye. Bye 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 bye. Bye 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 bye. Bye 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 bye. We sing Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
I like it. This is a nice, intimate setting. Should we all stand up and walk outside on the deck? What do you think? You know, it's almost like clockwork. It can be beautiful or even not that beautiful, but come sunset, it starts raining in the summertime here. Like, you can depend on it. We've got this beautiful Schiffer family terrace, and I love to use it, but we're inside, and it's air-conditioned, and we're together, and that is really, really lovely. So just a couple reminders. Mishkan Tefillah under your chair, okay? And we'll have some readings, so we can all do that together. Emergency exits, if we need them, there, and there. Your phones and your Apple Watches, if you'll turn them off, okay? That way you don't get a call in the middle of the service. Want to, of course, Rabbi Rachel, Rabbi Spike, let's take a moment or two, turn to the people around you. Hi, my name is Shabbat Shalom. Don't be afraid to get up. Really, let's take a moment and say hi to each other. That's the beauty of a small service. For folks at home, we want to welcome you. Give a shout out over Facebook. Let us know who you are. Say Shabbat Shalom. And let's sing a little Shabbat Shalom.
Yamai, bye, 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 yamai, bye, 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 yamai, bye, 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 yamai, bye, yamai, bye, yamai, bye, 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 yamai, bye, 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 yamai, bye, 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 yamai, bye, yamai, bye, yai, bye, 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 yai, bye, 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 yamai, bye, bye. We sing Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom.
Okay, so for candle lighting tonight, I would like to invite up anybody who just came back from our Temple Emanu-El trip to Israel. So come on up, everybody, if you were there. So this was a big trip. This was, including Rabbi Rachel's family and my family, 80 people on 2 buses. It's a big trip. So we've got a couple folks here. So come on over, and of course, candle lighting on Shabbat is the way that we separate time, right? From what we were before to what we hope to become. It is the way that we bring about with a physical symbol an aspiration for our best selves as individuals, as parts of a family, and parts of a community. So now symbolically, if one of you will pick up that central candle, and folks at home, if you'll do the same, everyone, if you'll rise for me. Okay, so we're going to light the candles.
We're on page 120.
120, thank you, Rabbi. Okay, and together we're going to bring in the light and the warmth and all this delicious Shabbat love.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kinishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. If you'd like to light your own Shabbat candles, come on up to the front as we pray together Shalom Aleichem on page 142.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharei, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Bring it home.
Say from the Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We can be seated. As we pray together tonight, pay attention as we do to the liturgy and how many references there are to Israel and this aspiration of getting to a certain, not just place, but state of mind that you'll find in the liturgy. And of course, as you're looking around, you've got a very different view than we do, but look around the sanctuary and see how many symbols there are that either directly or allude to Israel as part of our mindset, including the directions that we face, right? The narrative of the story, where we're going with the story. Of course, you've got the obvious 2 homes that we American Jews have, including the Israeli flag. It is all around us, both the conscious part and a subconscious part. L'chadodi, which you'll find on page 138, is a prayer that was literally written in Sfat, the northern city of Israel, which we didn't get to on this trip, next trip, okay? And here you've got this metaphor that the Kabbalists come up with, that the Jewish people and Shabbat are beshert. They are destined for each other. They are soulmates, if you will. And each one makes the other one complete. When the Jewish people have Shabbat And when Shabbat has the Jewish people, the world becomes much more whole. It's a beautiful idea. It's a beautiful concept that we've been living together for thousands of years. L'chadodi 138.
L'chadodi likrat kala yalalai 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 p'nei Shabbat nekabelai l'chadodi likrat kala yalalai 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 p'nei Shabbat nekabelai shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad hishmianu el hameyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad l'shem u'tiferet v'litahil l'chadodi likrat kala yalalai 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 p'nei Shabbat nekabelai l'chadodi likrat kala yalalai 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 p'nei Shabbat nekabelai likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelecha ki hi mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila l'chadodi likrat kala yalalai 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 p'nei Shabbat nekabelai l'chadodi likrat kala yalalai 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 p'nei Shabbat nekabelai boi v'shalom ateret ba'ala gam besimcha u'v'tzola toch emuneyam segula boi chala we face forward l'chadodi likrat kala yalalai 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 p'nei Shabbat nekabelai l'chadodi likrat kala yalalai 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 p'nei Shabbat nekabelai.
Page 146, you'll find the Baruch. This is our prayer of readiness. We're warmed up, we're in the place, we're in the space. We are ready to go to it.
Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Here we go.
Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
sun begins to set, we're expecting the moon to rise, the stars in our summer sky. You'll find Roll in the Dark on your back inside cover.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. וחושך מפני אור. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night.
Nice deep breath in together. We let it out. Feeling our feet on the floor, we get ready for our Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated. When the temple fell in 70 AD, and that's an idiom, that's like saying the White House fell, right? If the White House falls, that means Washington's fallen, that means America's fallen. So when the temple fell with our wars with Rome in 70 AD, our rabbis had this real conundrum. What do you do to continue this religion that's been focused on a central place and space and the sacrifices that come with it? And the answer that they came up with is brilliant, and that is that you decentralize the religion. That instead of having a center in Israel and in Jerusalem and in the center of Jerusalem, that the center of the religion becomes the home, the Jewish home. And the priests, including the high priests, become the parents of the home. And the sacrifices become the prayers that we can say, either at set times or in our hearts. One of the things in the Via Hafta prayer, which you'll find on 154, that comes from this period is this idea of mezuzah. That the mezuzah, which has the Shema and the Via Hafta, it's all part of the same prayer, is at eye level of the home, symbolizing that we are entering, when we enter a home, the most sacred place that there is for Jews, the place where we're supposed to bring the very best part of ourselves. And the cautionary warning from the rabbis is oftentimes many of us go into our home and sort of just let it all go, including bringing maybe the spit sip of who we are, right? Not the best of who we are, sometimes the worst of who we are. And so the mezuzah is supposed to be a reminder that when we go into this home, that the people who love us most and who we love most are in that house, and to bring our very best as we enter this door. Via Hafta can be found on page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם נאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
Page 159. Can we pray this together in the English? Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, a song of peace. 158, Michamocha.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נעדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושי פלא, נורא תהילות עושי פלא. מלכותך ראו פניך, חוקי הים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלינו ואמרו, זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני עמו לעולם ועד, אדוני עמו לעולם ועד. לי 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 לי
Rabbi Rachel and I made a conscious decision to not get heavy tonight. The world is heavy enough around us, and I felt like, or we felt, that we needed something light and happy. The world is as it is. And yet, even with the lightness of a usual Shabbat worship, there is a place in here, and I like that there is, to acknowledge that the world is hard, and life can be really tough, and there are unknowns that are scary. And we ask for a Sukkot Shalom, God's sukkah of peace to shelter us, to be over us, and protect us from those things around us that we can't control. Will you read with me in the English for Hashkivenu on the bottom of page 160? Together, grant, O God, that we lie down in peace, and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Page 161.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu, L'Shalom. Let there be love, let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
When asked what the biggest contribution Jews have made to Western civilization, the serious answer is ethical monotheism, the idea of one God with a judge and that there's actually right and wrong and not everything is morally relative. And I appreciate that answer, but I also like the half-joking answer, and that is what Jews brought to Western civilization. Our biggest contribution is the weekend. We invented it. That's Shabbat. We invented the weekend. What a cool thing to have invented. This idea that all of us not only need but deserve a chance to revitalize, to appreciate, to rest, not so that we can, do that in perpetuity, but so that we can be more productive and more visionary and more aspirational in the rest of our time. Shabbat is, as Rabbi Heschel says, the gift that has protected the Jews, and just as Jews have protected Shabbat, this is how we move together through the world. You can't go 24/7, 365. There has to be time for internal, for connection, for aspiration. Vishamru is on page 162.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
In a moment, we'll rise for our Amidah 164, and we will face east, because that is where Israel is. If we were on the other side of the world, what direction would we face? West, right? And if you are in Israel, what direction do you face for the Amidah? Karen? Jerusalem. And if you're in Jerusalem, what direction do you face? Where do you face? The wall, the Western Wall. So for Shabbat, when we were there, we all gathered at the Western Wall, in the egalitarian section of the Western Wall, literally at the epicenter where the whole world is facing, and we were right there within not quite touching because something had fallen, a big brick at one point, but we were close. We were as close as, me to you. So, another example of how we in our consciousness, our Jewish consciousness, always have Israel on our mind one way or another, and not just in this moment, but in generation after generation after generation. We orient ourselves towards this particular place. We rise for the Amidah, page 164.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, u'Mevi Geula Livnei Bneihem, Lema'an Shemo b'Ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah Rab Loshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel chaim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha bal gevurot, Umidom melach, Melech memit umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, udoshim b'chol yom yalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
We continue silently, either with the words of your prayer book or the prayers from your own heart. When you feel you are ready, feel free to have a seat. We were kibitzing outside before services and hearing some of the travel challenges that people had coming back from Israel and getting rerouted, and the long delays. And of course, we all know that travel is hard. International travel is really hard. International travel when there's COVID around is really hard, right? Between the mass and the mental and all of that, it's very, very difficult. When my family flew to Israel, everything went more or less right, and still we got there like, whoa, that was hard. And yet, as I reminded my family and some of the folks on the trip, we actually had it kind of easy compared to what our relatives have had to do, our ancestors have to do going way back, right? So now we can get on a plane, maybe 2 planes or 3 planes or whatever it is, but you get on a plane and you get there. Not that long ago, you would have to go overland and catch a ship, and a couple months' journey on that ship will get you there if you escape pirates and the ship actually gets there. And once they're there, depending on the age, you've got to deal with the Ottomans or the Turks or the Mamelukes or whoever's in charge at the time. So relatively, we've got it fairly easy today. This I find when and this happens every time we're about to go, that I feel depleted before I go because we're going pretty fast. And while there, I always feel like my battery is recharged. Like, zip, I'm good. I'm ready. And I've never experienced another place that can do this. And of course, it's not just the place. It's the history. It's the people. It's the whether you call it destiny, right? It's all part of this equation that has been helping us focus and driving us there for a very, very long time. Now, my personal story, and I've told some of you this before, so I grew up part of a Reformed congregation, but we never went. We never went. I got bar mitzvahed barely. The races where like someone's finishing over the finish line like this. I feel like that's how I got bar mitzvahed. And I grew up in an area of Boston where there weren't many Jews, so most of my friends were Italian. I didn't know many Jews. Twice a year. Oh no, we would go. High holidays, we would get there. Kicking and screaming though. I will tell you. So. My family, money was tight, so the family couldn't afford to go to Israel as a family, but they could afford to send me for my bar mitzvah present with a buddy's family who was going with his synagogue and his rabbi. So that was my introduction to Israel, and I will tell you that if I look back at my path to where I am right now with my Judaism, and now I'm a professional Jew, this is what I do, right? It all goes back to not just that first trip to Israel, but the next trip and the next trip and the next trip. And as soon as I got there, and I remember looking around and it being explained to me that just about everybody that you see is Jewish. The bus drivers, the butchers, the soldiers, the accountants, just about everybody. Now I know that things are a little bit more complex and not everybody there is Jewish, but that was good enough for the time. And before I had finished that first trip at 13, I knew I was coming back. It was that powerful. I came back again when I was 19, and then again at 21, and then again at 22, and just kept on finding ways to get there. I was talking to Linda earlier, who was saying that every time she goes to Israel, there's a deeper connection. There's a different experience and a deeper connection. And I still feel that way, that every time I go back, there's a deeper connection that happens. Now, my wife has questioned before, like, you keep on taking these sort of intro to Israel trips, right? First timers or people who haven't been there for a long time. Are you still getting things out of it? And okay, I don't need to. I'm not getting out of it that I haven't seen this site, and so this is the first time. But I will tell you that there's a profound sense of mission and connection that happens when I take people who have not been ever or have not been in a long time to Israel. And I actually feel like it's an integral part of my rabbinate, right? That is one of the things that I not just enjoy doing, but I must do, right? So the trip that we took as a rabbi, Rabbi Rachel was there, and Rabbi Max was there, and all of our friends, right? And there are certain boxes that one hopes as a rabbi that the congregational trips achieve, right? Number one, you want people to connect with each other, right? You want people to really connect with each other on the trip. And over again, I talk with people in the synagogue who are now lifelong friends with people who they went to Israel with through Temple Emanu-El whenever they went, right? So this happened. It happened quickly, right? We want people to connect to their synagogue and their rabbis, right? Again, there's a type of time being spent when you're literally walking in the footsteps of your ancestors and doing it with all the amazing, vibrant Jewish culture that is being created around you all at once. There's an energy there. We want people to connect profoundly to the land, to the country, to the people. And now we get into the less tangible things, to their souls, to God. And as far as my conversations went with folks and theirs with me, it felt like all of those boxes were just checked early and powerfully, which is, it's the dream. The way that we, in some ways, measure the success is hearing people talk about before the end of the trip, well, I'm coming back, and what I'm going to do on my next trip back, rent an apartment in Tel Aviv, do a different type of trip, come with my extended family, come with friends. That's the measure of the success. Can that happen again and again and again? Is there a desire, right? Is there a drive to keep going back? Israel itself, for us, we talked right before the Via Hafta about the temple falling, right? 70 A.D. So roughly 2,000 years ago, give or take when you're talking millennia, right? And so the temple falls and we go into to galut, to exile. Now we're in diaspora, right? The difference is now we have the choice. We could move to Israel. We choose not to, so now we're in diaspora. But for most of our last 2,000 years, we didn't have a choice, right? We were in exile, galut versus diaspora. So for 2,000 years, here we are kind of spread to the four corners of the earth. And throughout the service, we've talked about all the ways that Jews have kept focused on Israel. Now, you can see that a generation or two or three after we're exiled, and we're exiled because we lost a 3-generational war to Rome. 3 generations of Jews versus Rome, and eventually we lost that one. We tried to come back a little bit later with Bar Kokhba, okay, who was supposed to be our Messiah. That didn't work out so well either. Okay? So 2,000 years of diaspora. Now you can understand that, okay, your parents came from there and they have some pinings. Okay, or grandparents. Okay, grandma's talking about this place she came from. Okay, maybe even great-grandparents. But after 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 or 20 or 50 generations, this starts to feel like group delusion. Right? It's delusional. Hey, get over it. You were there and now you're not, and now just, acclimate to whatever new society if they'll let you, and move on. Stop focusing on this place. But we couldn't and we didn't, over and over and over again. 3 times a day, the traditional Jews pray, let us return to Israel. We face Israel when we're worshiping. Sukkot. What is this business with Sukkot? It's focused on the weather patterns of Israel. If you're in Poland during Sukkot, there's snow on the ground. I mean, it's freezing. What's this lulav and etrog business, right? So again and again, we're focusing on it. And what happens with the generations, the 10th generation, the 20th generation, the 30th generation, is we keep through our prayers, our intentions as a group, this hope alive that if we focus and we keep our eye on the ball, despite being dragged to the corners of the earth and the pogroms and all the things that we experience together, if we keep our eye on the ball, that anything is possible. That was the vision. That was a vision, maybe a delusional vision. Okay? And like the water that turns into a stream, into a river, eventually it becomes this raging current. So that in the middle of the 1800s, Jewish teenagers and today's Ukraine and Poland and Lithuania, were looking up after the pogroms that were happening in their village. Government-sponsored rape and pillage. And they would say, and they started to say, this is untenable. We're not going to stay here. We keep on, and these were mostly secular Jews, but as a culture, we keep on praying to go back to this place. We're going to start going back there. And this begins the waves of Jewish teenagers heading back to this land. Until eventually, we know how the story doesn't end, God forbid, but continues. 1948, 1967, today. So when we talk about Israel, right, it's not just a place or a space, it's a state of mind that we Jews have been moving towards or trying to move towards ever since the beginning, our Torah stories. That's what it's about. How do you move towards Israel? Go from a place of slavery and lack of options to a place of freedom and lots of options. And what type of civilization are we going to create in this new place? That was our story then, throughout, and continues to now. Now, one last thing. The rabbis look at the recreation of the state of Israel in 1948 as validation that prayers, can't come true because it's not wishes, right? But if individuals and families and communities and societies and generations focus on something and really work towards it, the impossible can happen. No other people has come back to their land after so much time. And what they say is if the Israel peace can happen after millennia, then anything's impossible, including the all-elusive peace in the world. Right? We look at peace and we sort of say peace is for fools. Like, who believes in peace? And yet, just like the Israel, every prayer service, we're praying for peace. We're orienting ourselves toward peace. We're striving towards peace, even when it's hard. If Israel could happen, maybe with more focus and more prayer and more effort, we can help bring peace back into the world. Shalom Rav is our prayer asking for peace. Big peace, profound peace, not to be given to us on a platter, but may we each have the strength to do our part to bring a little bit more peace into the world.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Tov be'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך.
All together.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim me'olam. Shalom Rav Tasim le'olam, tasim le'olam, tasim le'olam.
microphone to co-president Edie Disner. Edie, you want to say hi? Maybe give a shout out to Jessica started next week? Great.
Hi, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Did you know that part of being president is talking when you weren't prepared to talk to everybody? Not a problem. Thank you, Spike. And Shabbat Shalom to everybody at home as well. One of the things I love about Temple Emanu-El, being my spiritual home, is that you can come as you are. It takes a lot for me to get our rabbi to not wear a tie in June and July.
Yeah, that's right.
He can't give up the coat. You guys have to help me with this. But I want you to come as you are. Come if you're coming from the gym and you've been working out and you think, I need to go to services, do it. Log on. Be here. It's an amazingly beautiful community. And next week, we're going to warmly welcome someone new into our community, who is our brand new cantorial soloist, Jessica Tillum. And if you have not yet heard her music and voice and keyboard and guitar and soul, you're in for a treat. So I hope that lots of you will be here next week and the week after and the week. Yeah, you're right. Rachel's holding it together pretty good too. We'd be really happy to have a rabbi that can do that.
We're all eager for Jessica to
Yeah.
come. We are all eager.
Please. I got nothing on her.
So Shabbat Shalom to everybody, and thank you for being here, and thank you, Rabbi Rachel and Rabbi Spike.
My pleasure. Edie, hang on to the mic for a second because you can play Donahue and run around because it's time for our Shehechianu moments, right? So this is when we at Temple Emanu-El share a simcha, share something that has just happened in your life, which is really great, is happening, is about to happen. The tradition here is that you, if you want to share, that you say your name and then you share what you're grateful for. So, for example, okay, I don't need an example. Start with Ronnie.
Hi, Ronnie Mintz, and I was thrilled this last week because my daughter, son-in-law, and their 2 boys live in Philly, and they came here for July 4th to join Andrew and Leslie and their 2 boys. So we were 10 family together celebrating July 4th, which hasn't happened in a long time. So that was a great, great week.
Beautiful. May
Did you
that
make
happen.
it to the parade? No? Okay.
Hi, I'm Kathy Levitt. I just wanted to thank, I'm very grateful my sister and her family live in Highland Park, and they were at the parade, and they're safe, they're good. They were friends with the woman who was an activities director at their temple, and they had some other friends who were wounded, but they're okay, and I'm very grateful for that.
Okay.
Amen. Thank
We're
you.
going to say those names as part of Kaddish tonight. Yeah, thank you.
I'm Mark Feinberg, and I'm delighted to be here this evening. I want to congratulate my niece and her husband for the birth of their new baby boy, Eli Alexander.
Wow.
Yes.
Delighted to-
It was a busy week at Temple Emanu-El. There were 3 babies born this
Isn't
week.
that wonderful?
Yeah.
I like that.
So
At
it's
least.
a great time.
Simchas, something you are grateful for, something you want to share.
Well, I'll share that my in-laws were here for 4th of July, and we're all still
There were 3 healthy babies born in the system, so more time.